Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Standing Room Only podcast. I'm Goose. As always, we have Healy with us. This is episode number 122. Sorry, we had to take a little break from the action for a little bit of time, but we are back. On this week's episode, we are going to discuss our recap of the finals, our big surprises, our takeaways. We have the NBA draft is actually happening as we speak. With the NBA draft, there's always trade rumors, a lot of things heating up right now. Before we get into it, just want to make sure you guys are following us. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Standing Room Only Podcast. You can follow us on our social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok as well, SR Only Pod. You can follow our personal accounts. I am iGoose with 4 O's, and then we have Healy as well.
You can follow me at the Healy6 on Twitter and Instagram. It's been a bit. We have not recorded an episode since the finals happened. The new season is happening right now as the draft is going on during this recording session, but NBA finals, it was a good one. I am glad. I before the finals happened, I said I wanted to see Celtics and Warriors because you were either going to have Jason Tatum and his legacy starting up at 24, and then you have the Warriors coming back after being hurt the past couple of years with Clay being out, Kevin Durant leaving. Could they get back there with KD leaving and Steph getting a little bit older? And they proved everyone wrong.
They did. That was. I wish we put out a poll. I wish that we could have discussed because there were so many. I watched every single game, and I'm sure you did too, and I'm sure all the fans did. This is one of the first finals where I had different emotions going, and I'm like, man, I need to see Boston win. This is going to be great because we're talking about a team that, at the beginning of the season, nobody had Boston top 4. Nobody expected Boston to do what they did on this, from December on to the end of the season into the playoffs, the way they dominated. They played Giannis extremely well. Jason Tatum is arguably top 5 this season as far as consistency. His
playmaking got better, which we
got
didn't
better.
think he had at the beginning of the year. That was a big reason why we thought he wasn't going to be that great.
He's almost a potential triple-double threat with given a little bit more time if he's relied upon at that point. There were many games where he had double-doubles with assists, double-doubles with rebounds. But the deciding factor at the end of the day, which you can't really say anything bad about it, I think it's a learning lesson. He got the experience, was, for one, Steph Curry and the Warriors, well-deserved. They played excellent basketball. Looney at the center position, who wasn't a main focus in the regular season. Wiseman went down. He ended up stepping up to defend against the Horfords, against Robert Williams, which Robert Williams is proven to be that guy. He is that guy. The inconsistency was the killer at the end of the day when it came to Jason Tatum down in the clutch hours. In the fourth quarter, we saw many forced shots, forced layup attempts, he actually didn't really flop that much. We saw a lot of flopping in that series on both sides, primarily Marcus Smart, which caused a setback on defense by him flopping. No calls. There was no calls down the stretch there in the last game, game 6. Well, now you're down, flopping, faking your injury. Now you're talking 4-on-5 or 3-on-2, whatever it was for that play. But Jason Tatum did not bring it the same way he brought it all playoffs, all regular season. I felt like we saw more from Jaylen Brown, more consistency. And ultimately, at the end of the day, when Jason Tatum isn't performing at the level that Jason Tatum can, and you got to credit the Warriors, there was no way this was ever going to get to Game 7. There was no way.
The biggest issue for the Celtics, there was a crazy statistic before game 6 happened. If the Celtics turn the ball over 15 times or less in a game, they lost. I can't remember the time span, but they lost like 1 game or 2 games.
Wow.
If they turn the ball over 16 times or more, They only won like 2 games. And
Wow.
this was like over, I can't remember the exact game period, but this was over a pretty large sample. They're like 2 and like 13. They turned the ball over 16 times or more.
And my assumption is they turn the ball over way more than that. They
Game
they turn
6,
the
they
ball over a
turned the ball
lot.
over 21 times.
You can't do that. I know the Warriors defense is pretty good. I know
And,
that they have the Glove Junior and so on, but
mhm.
it's turning the ball over that much is bad. That's bad.
And the main turnover, like, hot zone area for them was like underneath the basket.
Yeah,
Was
it happened
they
quite a
would they
bit.
would drive, they would lose the ball on the drive, or they would try dumping it off and it would get tipped to someone, and or maybe they would pass it out from underneath. They just did not do a good job of keeping the possessions, and the Warriors capitalized on that.
It became one dimensional for sure. I mean, we saw it. I mean, Jason Tatum down the stretch. When Boston came back in game 6 and it was like a 10 or 11 point game going into the fourth. I was like, "Oh shit, here we go. They're going to actually they have momentum." And you just saw they put the ball in Jason Tatum's hands, and it was almost like every time he would drive, it was either he would try to force something, he would try to split defenders, end up tripping up, and it's unfortunately it's a no call a lot of times, especially in crunch time. You can't really just force a foul on somebody just because you're driving and you're Jason Tatum. And you just can't do it with those two. Don't get me wrong. I think Boston is good. I think that they're going to be back competing. I just feel as though what we initially thought was Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can't do it together. They proved to have a squad around them. Unfortunately, as much as we saw Al Horford stepping up and smacking threes left and right like he was 28 again, there just wasn't enough. And I don't know if it was because there was too much being forced down Jason Tatum, like that route, or Jaylen Brown, but I felt like there just wasn't enough to help them. And I thought that they had enough talent around them to compete and even force a game 7. Robert Williams, I thought was doing extremely well for his role. Al Horford was doing extremely well for his role. Marcus Smart, he was a big toss up. I felt like he was a huge X factor in why the Celtics lost. He not in the sense that he didn't shoot the ball well because he hit some big threes in the finals in the whole playoffs. But a lot of times, and it was so frustrating as a fan to see that he is flopping left and right in a game that matters, where you got to stay on your feet. I mean, you see him just flop, and don't get me wrong, some of them were questionable no calls, but why risk being down a man on defense against an offense that is so hard to defend as it is? We saw Klay Thompson in a couple of games just torch them. His catch and shoot is so smooth. It's the smoothest I've ever seen, probably. Steph Curry doing what he was doing, even during some points in the games where they were able to shut him down. He was very streaky at one point. Uh, the Warriors ultimately were just too much.
Even with Klay Thompson not having the best series, even with
Yeah,
Jordan Poole kind of having a couple bad games, even with Draymond Green being almost hurtful to be on the court, then you'd rather have him on the bench than on the court. You saw that in, I believe they won game 5. They kind of like went on a hot streak, won game 5, and then went to the Chase Center and won game 6, where Draymond sat out for like 5 or 6 minutes at the end, and then they
and he
just went
kept
on a
getting into foul
tear.
trouble. He kept getting into foul trouble also. So you got to think with Dream. I mean, this was Boston brought it. Like they brought what they could to the table. They forced a lot on Golden State. They forced Golden State to play a perfect game. I don't want to say they forced them to play a perfect game because it wasn't a perfect game from Boston or from Golden State. But in the times when it wasn't perfect, Boston also didn't take advantage of that. Too many. What game was it? Was it game 1 that Boston had blown a 20-point lead and Golden State won, or was that game 2? It was 1-1, and
Golden State Celtics won game 1 and 3.
Okay.
Or Boston won games
Oh,
1 and 3. The Warriors
right.
won
Golden State
uh
blew game 1. They had a 20-point lead. So you
yeah.
got to think they were handing them lemons. They were. There's no reason this ever should have went to game 6. Golden State let off the gas pedal too many times. Too many times there was big leads. Don't get me wrong, it's very entertaining finals. It was the most entertaining series of the playoffs. But at the end of the day, Golden State by far is the better team, and they're still a dynasty. They are still a dynasty, and we'll see what happens in the West, assuming guys come back healthy this year.
It was game Curry for Green. So yeah, it was like game 5 where they did sub out Draymond to like start the fourth quarter, and it was like a 3-point game, and then when he came back in, they were up like almost 20 points or so.
Just to keep the physicality. Yeah, they ran a lot of there was a lot of Steph, Clay, Jordan Poole, the 3 guards on the court at the same time. Obviously Clay is a little bit taller, but still it's tough to guard guys that shoot lights out. When everybody
Mm.
shoots lights out and you incorporate guys who know how to move the basketball around. Everything they ran, Andrew Wiggins was grabbing boards left and right. Shout out to Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah,
Shout out to
man,
Andrew
he had
Wiggins.
a couple games where he had 13 plus rebounds.
I think that Andrew Wiggins, this was his series. This is breakout year with Golden State. This was the most perfect, I would say, position that he could have been in. I know Minnesota, he was scoring, but not really doing a whole lot there. They
His
made the
usage
trade
rate
happen.
was the most in Minnesota too, when he had Butler and Karl Anthony Towns. He had a higher usage rate than both of them.
Yeah. Yep. And this helped a lot. This definitely opened the door for the rest of his career. He's a champion. His defense was great. He's proven he can score. He dunked it on I don't know how many people in the playoffs, like some super nasty posters, and definitely shout out to him. He had the potential to be the MVP if Steph Curry didn't keep averaging the 30 points a game that he averaged in the finals, 31. So shout out to Andrew Wiggins for finding a home in Golden State, and for Golden State to just say, "Hey, you're gonna fit in like the missing puzzle piece, and the ball's gonna flow, and you're gonna be here. You're gonna grab." I don't think anybody expected him to grab boards the way he did. I didn't. Not against a big Boston team like that.
It was definitely needed when they were so undersized as well. And Looney at some points looked pretty bad on the court. He was getting into foul trouble, which kind of
Looney
hurt
was.
because if you have Looney and Green in foul trouble, then I don't really know who else you're playing. They had Otto Porter start the last couple games, which was a
Yeah,
little
Otto Porter. Yeah,
surprising.
he started, and then they would take him out after a few minutes, and then Looney would play pretty much the rest of the game with a few subs. Otto Porter is a champion. You can thank Chicago for that one. No, we didn't want him. We didn't want that contract.
He was with Orlando.
Oh yeah, that's right. He
We
was. Yeah, we
dumped him.
definitely traded
Yeah.
him to Orlando. Traded him to Orlando. So I think Golden State's contenders next year for the next couple of years. Klay Thompson comes back after 2 full seasons of rehabbing. First an ACL, then his Achilles.
You could tell he was kind of a step off though. And I don't know if we'll ever see a prime Klay Thompson again. Yeah, he's an elite shooter, but you could tell on a lot of his jump shots, he was just a half second too slow, and he was getting contested and not
Yeah,
hitting what he's normally hitting.
he's working on. You could tell his everything is about his game has changed a little bit.
He's
Obviously he's
dribbling more.
still. Yeah, yeah. Well, I was finding he was coming off screens. They set a lot of good screens for him. He would. There was a lot of times where he had to shoot out of funks. He just had to keep shooting until he started. Once you see the ball go into the bucket, it's a different ball game at that point. But he had a hell of a series. He had a hell of a series for being at this point with Golden State. Besides Steph Curry, I don't know who the next best option is, because Jordan Poole. I know he had a couple of games where he wasn't really a factor, but Jordan Poole is going to be the future of this team, assuming they don't trade him. I don't see why they would trade him. They don't need to
I
trade him.
think Klay Thompson would be the guy who unfortunately would have to leave if they're going to keep Poole.
Given the contract and the injury history, you hate to do that to a franchise, to a family, and age, of course. But at the end of the day,
it is a business.
It is a business. But, they've had one of the best runs we've ever seen. And you can't take that away. You could trade them away, but you'll never it's like when the Bulls decided to part ways, Jordan's gone, Pippen's gone. Those guys are playing in Portland and Washington, and it's like, man, did they really have to do that? It's like, well, you know what? You can't take away what they did for the city and for the franchise. So I'm
6
excited
finals
already.
trips in 8 years.
And they won
Yeah, it's
4.
unreal. And in that 4, in that 4 that they won, they lost the one that they should have won. Who knows? Maybe if Draymond Green didn't get suspended for Game 6, they would have won. But also at the same time, in Game 7, he did go off for 30 points and save them. It was his best playoff performance ever. And then they lost when both Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson went down. But 4 championships, unreal. And they're going to still compete for the next few years.
Oh, yeah. That's not even a question.
But with the new season around the corner, who else is going to compete with them? We're having talks, though, on some mix-ups happening already. Kyrie Irving potentially leaving the Nets. There was a report that both sides weren't seeing eye to eye. The Nets are probably done with all the shenanigans. Kyrie is probably like, yeah, okay, just get me out of here.
So the Hornets, the Hornets just drafted Jaylen Terry, center at, I don't know what school he came out of, but he just got traded to the Knicks.
Which is weird because Woj and Shams tweeted at the same time. Shams said Hornets traded Duran to the Knicks, and then Woj said the Pistons are acquiring him.
Oh, wait, that'd be weird though. I thought the Pistons. Okay.
Also, like the Thunder got a couple picks in a row. They had like the 11th and 12th picks.
Oh, okay. So there have been some trades. So we're seeing some activity here. So, of course, as you were mentioned, to get back to it, Kyrie is in the trade rumors now all of a sudden. Is it to spark the drama for us sports fanatics? Do we like sports drama?
Yeah.
Yes, I love sports drama, especially when it involves the dismantling of a team that got together and clearly did not work out in Brooklyn. But at the same time, so Kyrie is gonna explore. He's open to trade offers. He's open to a sign and trade. He's open to all these things we're hearing about. What does that do for the team? Well, if he's gone, Durant's ring chasing. At this point, he's ring chasing, which a lot of guys do. It's not a problem, and it opens the door for potential trade rumors.
Future bullshit, Kevin Durant.
You know it would have to be a crazy package to get him.
I don't care if you trade Pat Williams. If you want to throw in DeMar DeRozan, sorry, DeMar. You just got to give value back for KD. If you want to give up a pick, Kobe White, whoever, the impact KD will give is way more. And in this league, if you want to win, you have to have at least a top 10 player. You want to have to have your best chance a top 5 player, because those are the guys that win you championships. The Warriors prove it wrong, but
that's true. Or potentially 3 top 20 players: Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and we'll see if Rudy Gobert gets traded. We don't know what's going to happen. The rumor is
Kemba to Detroit.
Kemba got traded.
Yeah.
Let me hear it. Let me hear this trade. Did
Knicks,
they say for
Knicks,
who?
probably the guy they drafted, Jaylen Terry.
Okay. So Kemba, we don't know what we're going to get from Kemba the rest of his career, because obviously when he went to the Knicks fans were all hoorah. I had to shut that down on Twitter. Knicks fans are very rough to argue with, by the way. Sorry, Knicks fans, but you guys are. I'm just realistic. Kemba Walker really hasn't been the same in the last couple years. So that'd be interesting to see what he does in Detroit. As far as we know, Kyrie is expected to find a new team by opting in and requesting a trade per Shams within the last couple of hours. Woj just talked about it as well. Durant's probably gone. Ben Simmons just got traded to Brooklyn, and at the end of the day, it looks like Philadelphia wins. Maybe, maybe not.
I don't
So,
really think there's going to be a winner in that situation. We'll have to see what Harden does next year. But from what I saw on Twitter, is this could all just be a smoke screen, kind of like the Levine stuff that's been going on, and Kyrie could just opt into a super max with the Nets
and he very
because his situation, the only way he could get better. I know he put out a list of teams that included like the Clippers, the Lakers, and a few others. But the Clippers, I guess, could get you a good chance. The only one to get you like a better chance than the Nets would be the Lakers in some capacity.
for a championship.
Yeah,
Oh, hands down.
compared to the Nets.
My biggest thing is we did not see the Nets at full potential. We didn't see them at full potential. If you have Kyrie who is literally jumping from team to team, dissatisfied, to me that's a problem. Because yes, talent-wise you're good, but does he understand what these franchises are giving up for a player like him to just the next season to be like, I'm unhappy? Like, we got to cut the tie with that, I think. And the worst part is, his trade clause, if he agrees to a sign and trade, that they have to pay him like a percentage. It's like a 5% of his salary or something crazy where it ends up being a few mil just to be able to trade him. That is the most player friendly and dumbest contract I have ever seen. But you got to give guys what they want to play for you. But even then, you can't even make them happy for whatever reason. And I get like the whole thing with the vaccination and whatnot, which is fine. I mean, they were cool with it. I just think we have not seen the full potential of Brooklyn because they, like you said, if they all stick together, those three, I don't care what anybody says, Ben Simmons can still be a dog if he pulls, what out of, where.
Mm-hmm.
He can still be good. He can still be good. Defensively is all you need from him. But it all really depends on what happens now. It's a bummer that Kyrie is at this point because I actually have had Brooklyn as the top team in the East, top 3 at least for the last couple of seasons. And now they have to go through the whole thing again. As a fan, do I like the drama? Yes. Do I like trades? Yes. It reminds me of playing NBA 2K, my franchise league.
Yep.
But as for Brooklyn, that sucks because they gathered what I think is one of the greatest duos to never really give it a shot.
Trio, to be exact.
Trio, to be exact. They had James Harden at one point, yeah.
And yeah, if they do end up losing them, which I think is a small chance as of now, the Nets history has to be one of the worst in sports history. Just because if you remember way back when they traded for Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry and gave up all their first round picks for years, they pretty much did the same to get Harden, and they would just lose out for the next few years again.
Do you remember
They have
that
minimal
trade? They got
success.
all those guys at the end of their careers. So I feel like Charlotte's picking for the 3rd time in the draft, and I'm sure that was due to the trade that happened. There's a couple trades that happened already in this draft. My question for you is, what do you want to see? Of course, we got to talk our Chicago sports. We got to talk about our Bulls. Bulls actually have been talked a lot about. Tongue twister. Bulls have been talked about a lot on social media from verified accounts saying, hey, this team actually, if you really think about it, if they do manage to pull off a Rudy Gobert trade, what the defensive rating is going to do. You got to think Utah has been one of the best defensive rated teams since Gobert's been there. They've won at least 45 to 50 games almost every season that he's been
In
there.
the West.
in the West. Now, here's the thing. Yeah, they have Donovan Mitchell. Who else do they really have? Michael Conley's at the end of his career. He's not the reason. You're talking about a team that, okay, maybe they're coached pretty well. They have defensive-minded guys. But if you take Rudy Gobert, and I know he's been exposed in the playoffs, I know there's weaknesses, but the defensive rating, which the Bulls were atop of the league until December, you add him in the mix. You take away Vooch. I assume Vooch would be a part of that trade. And somehow keep Pat Williams. If they can somehow keep him, that defense is going to be sick. The offense is already not bad. DeRozan's questionable in the playoffs. Clearly, he has been in his career. But being able to add that enforcer on defense that could potentially compete with Giannis, maybe, maybe not. Not many guys can. But it's going to help give the Bulls that edge. And they can still package a draft pick. They can still package Kobe White. There's other guys out there. They can sign Mitchell Robinson if they say they do or don't go after Rudy Gobert, which I like Mitchell Robinson as well. Mitchell Robinson's not a bad big guy. What would be your expectation of where you're like, all right, this is the year for Chicago?
They would need to get Gobert. I guess with all the options out there, they would have to re-sign Zach LaVine,
Zach LaVine.
and they would have to get an athletic power forward. I do not want to
Yeah.
see 6'4" and 6'6" Derrick Jones Jr. and
Javonte Green.
Javonte Green at power forward. It just won't work, especially when you already have LaVine and DeRozan on the floor, who are undersized. One's good for shooting guard, but undersized in the small forward position.
Yeah,
Like
I
they don't
agree.
have that. The height issue doesn't really matter. You saw the Celtics, it worked decent with Robert Williams being 6'8" at center. But like the Warriors, it works well with them because they space out the floor. The Bulls
Yeah.
don't have a good spaced out floor team. They don't have
The way
shooters all around. They have good
I agree.
scorers, but they don't have lights out shooters.
So that goes to my next point then. If that's the case, would you be okay with them trading Kobe White, who can space the floor quite a bit? My thing with Kobe White is I saw too many bad games.
Yeah.
I saw too many 0 for 10 performances.
His IQ is not great.
With potential, though.
Yeah,
he has a high, I would say he has a high ceiling.
Yeah,
but his
you can't
IQ,
wait
you
on
can
it.
tell. Yeah, you can tell if you want you're a team that goes after somebody where you're like, okay, we're gonna get him. We'll extend his contract 3 or 4 years. We'll keep him for cheap, and in the 3 to 4 year mark, he'll be reaching his potential, and we'll have guys around him because we got him for a little bit cheaper. That would be my takeaway for any team that does offer. Now, the only downside for the Bulls is to get any of these big guys, any of these big names. I feel like Pat Williams, is got to be in the bundle. Unfortunately, and is that okay?
I'm okay with it based off what I've seen from him last year, coming off the injury as well. I just don't know. He has the athletic build, but I don't really know how well of a power forward with like footwork and stuff he is, and on the defensive end, how well he would do in that factor. But just seemed a little slow in a sense, like moving around on the floor, and his offensive game isn't too great at the moment. So
He's had a
him
couple
being
of
a
good games,
support
but
player in that sense, like
Mhm.
I don't really know if you could rely on him to spot up, like space the floor and like sit in the corner. He's not saying the pick and roll. And like his dribbling, I don't really know if he has that explosiveness handling the ball. I'd be fine with it in this scenario. If we were still like a couple years off, I don't know if I would get rid of him. But in a win
I
now
would
mode,
be
okay, it's go out.
exactly. The window based on age, and I know Zach LaVine's age is
And
fine,
money.
and money. DeMar DeRozan has this much time left. It's a very small window. He's 30, what, 2? 31, 32, 33 in that range. How many more years of good basketball are you going to get from DeMar DeRozan? Sure, he stays healthy. He's been great. He played under Coach Popovich. He was successful in Toronto. My expectation is if we want to win now, it's got to be in the next 2 to 3 years, max. And if we can somehow lock in a couple of guys and future-proof the team, bring in some guys so that if for some reason it doesn't work in this 2 to 3 year window, then maybe start a rebuild like what we're seeing, like Houston ended up going through a rebuild. They were they were a very good team for 8 straight years going to the playoffs, Western Conference Finals. They just couldn't get past that edge there, but they ended up trading away big pieces when they realized, okay, our window's changing a little bit. It's not working with this duo. Let's get all these draft picks. And now we're at the point where Houston has all these draft picks. They have all these number one players. Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr. They just drafted Jabari Smith. They have all these great guys. John Wall's coming back. We'll see what they do with him. But to me, that's got to be the move if you're not winning in this window, because DeMar DeRozan is right there at the age where you start to consider, okay, maybe we let him walk at the end of his. I think he signed a 3-year deal with us. You let him walk at the end of that. You know, Zach LaVine's going to get the max. He's going to stay with us. He's going to be in his prime for the next few years, assuming he stays healthy. Vooch, obviously, if he gets packaged, he's gone cool. But I say 2 to 3 years max is our window, unless for some reason Patrick Williams is kept on the team and he starts to pull a Kawhi Leonard on us. Then I'll be okay.
Someone tweeted at Vooch today and said, "You're getting traded," and he responded, "How do you know? Are you friends with Shams or Woj?"
Yeah, I saw that. That's hilarious. He's always interactive on Twitter. I am really, really excited to see. So the Pistons are sending the Hornets 2025 first round pick via Milwaukee in the Duran trade. Detroit got that pick from Portland in the Jeremy Grant deal yesterday. That's per Woj. So I still don't see anything on Chicago, but Chicago is, I believe, up next after Atlanta. Or Atlanta just drafted AJ Griffin. So
Houston picked Tari Easton at 17. I don't even know who I want the Bulls to get. If we could just get a power forward, I'd be fine. ESPN or Bleacher Report said Malaki Branham from Ohio State, but he's a shooting guard. Do we want another guard with Caruso, Lonzo, Ayo, Kobe White?
Tari Eason was supposed to be the guy from what I read leading up to the day, which I think he's a taller player from LSU.
Yeah. He just got drafted power forward.
Oh man, Houston's going to be good. Houston's going to be so good.
We didn't even talk about Houston and Detroit trading their bigs. Christian Wood got traded for like nothing.
Yeah, Christian Wood got traded to where did he even get traded to? I can't even think right now.
Mavericks.
Oh my gosh. Dallas got good in that trade. Dallas, so they ship off Kristaps. They end up bringing in Spencer Dinwiddie, who ended up being good off the bench for them in the playoffs. And then they end up trading for Christian Wood when they realize, okay, we need a guy like Christian. I like Christian Wood. I think he's a good player. I think he worked his ass off to get where he's at. Because with Detroit for the first couple seasons, he was like, you're like, oh, he has potential, but he's not doing it. Ends up going to Houston. Can shoot the three ball, can grab the boards. He's a bigger center, power forward, I guess we can call him. And now he goes to Dallas. Dallas, to me, Jalen Brunson's probably out the door, which is okay. Dallas, to me, is one more piece away from actually being a serious competitor in the West. Now, you got to factor in the Clippers, who, healthy, are a scary team. You got to factor in who knows what's going to happen with the Lakers. You always got to talk about that simply because, yeah, they had a shitty season, but the ceiling's always high. And that, yeah. That's basically where I was going with that. I like Dallas. I like Dallas a lot.
And they gave up almost nothing. And then you had Detroit trade Grant to Portland for pretty much nothing. It was just a salary dump. I like how
He'll
Twitter kind of hyped up Grant going to Portland as if they were going to be something. I don't think he's going to make too much of a difference there.
he'll be okay. Portland's a team that, as bad as they were, if Dame can get back into Dame Dollar mode, if you will, they have Josh Hart, they have Dame Dollar, they have um Yusuf Nurkic, who's pretty good center. You add Jeremy Grant, who is very good. They have a guard. Oh my gosh, young guard. I can't think of his name right now. He ended up starting a lot of games for them.
Simons? No.
Yes, yes, yes. He's not bad either, and he's a guy that could step into that 2 slot. He can play the 1 or the 2. So Portland actually could end up being a play-in team, if not better. It depends on injuries and whatnot. So yeah, the West is good. The West is good. I'm not too sold on Jeremy Grant. I'm glad that it wasn't the Bulls that traded for Jeremy Grant because he was rumored at the trade deadline last year, which could have helped us in the playoffs a little bit. But we'll see what happens with the Bulls pick here coming up shortly.
If I see Shams or someone tweet it out, you want me to tell you?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, might
Definitely
as
do.
well. Bradley Beal, we've had talks of him potentially opting out, but then he tweeted out shortly after. He's like, "What?" I feel like I feel like an opt out from Bradley Beal means he's just gonna re-sign with the Superman.
Which wouldn't be a bad move because Washington is another team, if they play their cards right, in the East, because we know the East is getting stronger, but we know that bottom half of that tier, that 7 through 10, is always up in the air. I think Washington healthy, Bradley Beal, Kristaps fits right in. I think you have Gafford coming off the bench. You have some other players there, Rui, and obviously whatever happens here with the draft and free
Kuzma,
agency. Oh yeah,
too
Kyle
soon.
Kuzma. How can I forget
Yeah.
about Kuzma? Kuzma actually had a hell of a year this year. So, and they have a lot of potential that, I mean, if they do end up deciding that, okay, we're going to sign and trade Bradley Beal for whatever reason, I mean, or they promise to trade away one of their main assets to bring in another star player, they could do that. I mean, who's to say they don't bundle Kuzma with somebody? Kuzma, to me, at his age, is a top tier player. So it's all up in the air.
What if Kemba gets released? Oh,
Ooh,
Kemba and the Pistons are expected to discuss a contract buyout. Well, there we go. I literally just said it and then it popped up on Twitter.
go
But
to LA.
yeah, what if he goes to like Washington, LA?
It wouldn't be bad.
The Lakers or the Clippers? Because
The Lakers.
The Lakers have Westbrook right now.
For now. So Westbrook for now, of course. We don't know what's going to happen. The Lakers, the thing about being on a franchise that has LeBron, they change players like people
Well,
change clothes.
and due to the NBA rules, if Westbrook gets traded, he needs to be traded for similar money.
Oh, of course.
So
And it's a matter of
if
who wants
like
that contract.
yeah, and let's say it's like Kyrie wants to leave. I'm not saying they would accept this trade. I would expect them to get someone decent back. So
Yeah, they
I
would
don't
have
really
to.
see Kemba. I don't know. I still see Kemba as a starter type player. I don't really see him off the bench, but who knows? At this point and how he's played, he might as well be.
Yeah, I think it all is going to depend. I don't know if it's going to be July 1st or what the date's going to be for when free agency opens, but I'm expecting to see a lot of moves in the next week or two. If they decide to bring in Kemba, obviously we would expect Russ to be gone. Russ would probably have to be gone first, and some sort of salary dump. It's a lot of money to dump off. But if you can get somebody for even $8 million less. I couldn't imagine Kemba signing more than a 2-year, $15 million deal. You're going to be chasing a ring. You really haven't really performed that well in the last couple of years or even played that much in the last couple of years, but it'd be interesting to see. But to your answer about the Wizards, I could see him playing there as well. They don't have a true point guard. They have
And
Bradley
they
Beal at the
wanted a
2.
veteran.
Yeah. They're set. I think their centers are okay. They have a young Thomas Bryant. They have a young Daniel Gafford. They have Rui. They have Kyle Kuzma. They have Kristaps. They're okay there. You have Bradley Beal. You have Denny. Where's that true point guard? They get a true point guard, it's going to help. It'll help a lot. But this is a franchise that I think they have some good assets that they should consider trading. You have all those young big guys that are 24 and younger. Maybe bundle them with somebody, a draft pick or something. But Washington definitely needs a couple of pieces, and Kemba could potentially help.
The Chicago Bulls will pick Jaylen Terry at number 18.
Okay.
He is a guard out of Arizona. He is 6'7", 19 years of age. See his
Another
stats on there.
guard.
I don't know any. 6'7" though, which is good. He averaged 20 points a game. Oh, that's minutes. That's minutes. My bad. Where is these college websites suck. Oh, he averaged 8 points a game? That can't be right.
Big board rank is
37
40.
games, and he had 297 points.
Who is Jaylen Terry? I don't. Who is this guy? From Arizona. Jaylen Terry on the rise. So he was projected to go 20th. So they actually have him listed as a small forward on the CBS website. So he's either he's probably a two-way player. Averaged 8 points a game, 5 boards and 4 assists isn't bad. Prospect rank number 24th for his position, 5th at the small forward position. So maybe he's not too bad. We'll see. I know that there was a lot of talk of EJ Liddell, who averaged like 20 points a game, but that is not the case. Jaylen Terry is in Chicago, and I don't know how I feel about it. I've never heard I've heard his name, but I've never watched him play, never watched his highlights.
Yeah.
So we'll see what ends up happening.
There is a tweet I'm looking at right now from a week or almost 10 days ago. He was working out with the Blazers, and he got asked on being projected as a late first rounder. He did say, in quotes, there's going to be a redraft in 10 years, and it's going to be different.
I like that. I like that a lot because we see that a lot, right? Redrafts and your Lucas and your Trey Youngs getting drafted in mid-first round.
Here's a good description that someone tweeted out from SB Nation as well. He's an editor and writer for SB Nation, Chicago. He said, Jaylen Terry, I like it. Had him number 15 on my board. Okay. 6'7" wing with a 7-foot wingspan. That's really good right there. Really good passing ability. You like that. Good defensively. 3-point shot's a question. So unfortunate there. Thought he was a perfect fit as a connector on a team with multiple stars. Bulls fans will love his personality too. Okay.
So a lot of good things. Okay. I'm not going to get too worked up about it. It's the draft. I think we had expectations that Kevin Durant was going to get traded to Chicago. Which obviously, it's always rumors on draft night. The big moves always happen after, leading up to free agency. A lot of sign-in trades. So good pick. We'll call it a good pick for now. It's not like we don't have a playoff team already. So that's okay. And of course, we will not be live during the late first round and the second round. Anything could happen the rest of the draft as well. But we'll call it a win for now. It's another 6'7" player on the team. I think our average height is like 6'6", 6'7". That's like for all positions. So it's okay.
Yeah, I guess I won't mind it. It is a rookie. Are they going to be in the rotation anyway? So we didn't really think Iowa's going to be in the rotation,
That is
but he
very
got his
true.
minutes. It's just he is a guard, but I guess at 6'7", here's another concern I have. I guess him being 6'7" will be good, but with how many guards there are, he's going to be kind of thrown into a power forward position in a role where he's listed as a guard. So like how good is his footwork in the forward position and in that area? Because in high school, when I played basketball, I was a guard. I grew a lot. And then they put me at the forward and center position, and I was clueless.
Yeah. You know what? It's okay. I think I was really hoping they'd somehow go after a bigger player, but it sounds like this guy is going to be a nice little glue piece if he can develop and be a huge playmaker, defensive player and a good playmaker offensively. We don't need a shooter. We have other guys that can shoot. But if he can somehow work on a three ball and be just that one of those guys like a Dorian Finney-Smith,
Hmm.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I wonder who they compare
So
him to. That's what I want to find. So I'm gonna have to look and see who they can compare him to, like they normally do in the draft. Oh, loves being called a glue guy. I just looked up at the TV and it just popped up saying he loves being called the glue guy. So that's incredible. I just said I hope he can be the glue guy, and that just popped up. I'm one with the universe, law of attraction. It's a real thing. Just check it out, everybody. But anyways, I don't really have much else. I think I'm just gonna continue watching the draft and see where everybody else falls. And of course, everybody that's tuned in. Healy, did you want to add anything to with the NBA talk?
don't have anything at the moment.
Okay.
We're already in the next season, which is good. Like
Yes.
Warriors fans, they're probably a little unhappy that their reign of celebration is over within a week. But other NBA fans, if you got eliminated recently, especially the Celtics, you put it right behind you because the 2022-2023 season has officially started and free agency will happen in a couple weeks. Oh boy.
It's get your popcorn ready. So next week, when we record, we will be leading up to free agency. There may be some trades. Anything can happen the rest of the night today and moving forward. So make sure you guys tune in. Again, we are on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcast, Standing Room Only Podcast. If you do launch it on Spotify, you can actually see the video feedback. We're on YouTube as well. I don't think I mentioned that before. If you want to show us some love, hit the like, hit the download button, and then of course, social media, SR Only Pod, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, of course, and personal accounts on my Goose with 4 O's.
Now I am at the Healy 6 on Twitter and Instagram.
We will see you next week.